So I find that when the weather has been really, really sunny, right, and it heats up the pavement or the patio, whatever's outside, and it suddenly starts to rain, or you get that like that smell before a storm, that is the most amazing smell ever. That where the atmosphere has been really hot, and then you get like this rain. You know that smell I'm on about?
Yes, it's like it reminds me of magic and also being a small child, that smell. It's just like when the lawn gets cut also.
My dog, when there's a storm about to come, my dog starts to react really weird. Like she'll go under the table, go under the chair. She literally tries to climb in the bathtub, and I'm like, we can't bath you. Like you never want to get in, and yet you're trying to jump in the bath when there's a storm. And what's amazing is that we can't hear the storm, and so we think, well, if I can't hear it, the dog can't. But the dog is picking up something. It's almost like it's picking up vibrations that we can't see or hear, but the dog can. It just shows you that there's so much more to life that we see. Like we think animals are just like a squirrel climbing a tree, going about his day, but we really have no idea what he's thinking, what he's doing, if he can recognize us, like if he recognizes me walking past the tree. We just see him as a little squirrel making a noise, but for all we know, he recognizes us just like a dog recognizes us. And that means a butterfly or an ant could recognize us, which is crazy to think about that.
Yeah, I think the universe and all the beings that are in the universe is just so complex, and sometimes you actually just need to stop and think about all the creatures that we have in our life and really appreciate it and see what they have to offer because they're so aware compared to human beings at times.
Yeah, if you listen to birds, right? Obviously you probably know this, but if you listen to a bird do a little unique tune, you hear the other bird almost do the exact same tune back. And it's like if I said to you, "Hi, my name is Oliver, what's your name?" And you said, "Oh, hello there, my name is Jocelyn, whatever," the sounds wouldn't be exactly the same. But if you listen to a bird whistling, it kind of is exactly the same. So does that mean that they are not having a unique conversation like question and answer, or are they just like kind of communicating, like saying like I'm here, and they're saying I know you're here? Is it like a form of acknowledgement that you are both aware of each other and they're not actually having a conversation like there's a guy with a blue coat, okay, I'll watch out in case he comes near me, don't forget the twig, all right then. It's different sounds, but when they do the noise it's identical. That's like, so what does that say?
Yeah, I think animals have their own frequency, and it's just, I think they communicate quite differently than, human beings. They always talk about cats too, when they look at you, they give you this like blinking. And if they blink a couple times, it means like they actually really trust you. So I definitely feel like they are communicating, but it's in a different way compared to how you and I would communicate with each other.
It's like, we mimic our parents, right? So if our
Yes.
parents do certain facial movements, then we will follow it, or head movement when you talk. When I wink at my dog, it winks back, right? Specifically when you look at him and you wink, he'll wink back. So that is amazing because it says that they are they are aware. It's like some cows in a field, right? I sit with a lot of cows just because I like nature. And some of them you can just see that there's just nothing there. Like it's just a dumb cow. But then some cows, he's looking at you and you can tell that he knows like that you're here. It's almost like he's saying to you, "You're no threat to me. You can sit next to me, no problem." And then he goes back to grazing. And then some of the other cows are just, they've no self-awareness. And that tells me like, is everything consciously aware or not? Or is it a mixture of both? Like humans, some could be aware like us, and some have no clue. So that means, does that mean that some things are aware and some are not? And how does that gain awareness?
Yeah, that's a really good point because, I feel the same. I don't really think everything exactly is aware. Not every animal. Maybe some are different than the others. They vibe at a different frequency. Some are more in tune with things. Maybe, especially with the cattle too, you usually have like that one cow that protects the herd and is in charge of the herd. So that's a pretty neat point, bringing it up that some may not be as aware as others.
Like I have a field near me. 3, 4, 5 years ago, there used to be a family of cows, like three mum cows and say five baby calves. And I used to see it every year for like 3 years. And then they went off to the butchers wherever they went, right? And
Yeah.
then only recently I've gone back to that field and there's more cows. Obviously, it's not the same cows. And I just went and sat with those cows just because I feel like I have the ability to do that, right? And then all of a sudden, this big cow came up to me and he started putting his head on me. And
Oh
I didn't
wow.
understand why. And what's interesting is I looked underneath him and I saw like a long thing, which is obviously his cock. And normally you see the mother's udders, and it hadn't clicked like, where's its udders? And I realized, shit, this is the ball. And so I'm sitting down next to these like kind of big babies. The mothers are like, oh, don't care, can't be asked. And the babies are like there. And then all of a sudden, this big cow comes up to me. He heads up to my head and he starts like just moving his head on me. And I'm like, I've never experienced that before. And then I slowly, I sort of picked up his masculine energy, like the energy felt different. It was like, shit, I'm feeling like this anger. And so I slowly started to move. And then I sort of went round him so he could see where I was, so he wasn't like scared. And then I just sort of sat down quite far away. And then he came up to me and he started to like move his foot along the ground like a bull does. And I was like, shit, I have to go. And then I went to the fence and I was looking at him and he would not stop looking at me. And that was the first time I'd been in amongst cows where there was a big adult bull that was protective over the calves and the two mums. But I didn't realise, I didn't know it was a bull. I just went and sat down, no threat, just, feeding him some grass. This cow was not having it. And then I realised not all cows are the same. That's the point I'm saying. They're not all the same.
No, not at all. I actually had an experience with a bull not too long ago too, actually. So it's so funny how you're bringing this up.
That's the thing. Do you like surrender to someone trying to attack you, hoping that they see you as no threat and back off? Or do you stand your ground? It's like, have you seen the videos on Facebook where this man was in a deer park taking photos and this deer was coming head to head with the guy? And the man literally put his head down and was just sort of putting his own force back. But the deer just kind of trotted back and then thought it was a game or thought it was like this is war, which means you could get hurt. But then if you just lie down, he could stamp on you. Like, what would you do? What should you do?
I definitely think like you should project your energy towards it. And like they say, make yourself seem bigger and just to frighten them off. I guess it would really depend on what animal it is too. Because some of them you do have to kind of back away and walk away slowly without, getting attacked.
Like for example, the cow. It's a big animal, so it could really hurt you if you're close. But if it starts to charge at you, the chances are it hasn't got the same agility as you, or it's not as quick. So for a cow, the best thing literally would be to like pivot it. If it comes up to you, just like dart to the left or dart to the right. Whereas if it's like a deer and it's quick, you literally don't really have much time to run.
No, he wouldn't. The bull thing, I that'd be pretty intense having a bull come after you. So you'd
What
have to definitely think fast.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It wasn't like a big one which has a horn. It was like one of those shaved off ones. For some reason, the horn was cut off. Maybe it was a young bull. Maybe the farmer shaved it off, or maybe like ivory. He wanted to sell it for like, ivory, whatever. But I didn't know. Anyway, I got great. What thing are you thinking about at the moment? Like a deep thought thing that you're thinking about in terms of like universe and that type of thing, but not movement stuff.
Oh gosh, definitely like the awakening that's been going on with people in the world. Obviously, some people have chosen to start their journey through awakening, and some people have really chosen to ignore it. Ignore that higher self of them, that higher consciousness. I just feel like there's so many energetic shifts going on in the world right now, and it can be overwhelming. And it's just like there's so many feelings, minus all the stuff that you see in the news, which I don't really pay attention to begin with. But I just feel like the earth and everything's just evolving so much energetically. There's so much going on, if you get what I mean.
Oh, of course. Like it is overwhelming. It's like if somebody is of a low vibration and they're suddenly seeing like a transition in humanity or whatever, then you suddenly feel like, oh my God, this is happening and this energy of movement. But if you say are already woke like you and me and you see the change and you realize we can't really do much, that is also overwhelming. So it's like you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. It's almost like being an entrepreneur. You can get up when you want and sort of do whatever you want, but you've got to be even more disciplined and you've got to do a lot more work behind the scenes. Whereas if you just work for a company, then you're kind of like a slave to the boss. Your brain's not really stimulating because you're following orders. You've got to be up at a certain time, then you get the same amount of money each week. It's like everything in life is a struggle. The illusion that everything is perfect, like food's always going to be there, it's an illusion. Like even like a
Yeah.
100 years ago, our grandparents, if they weren't farming and growing stuff and milking the cows and shit like that, they wouldn't eat. And yet we have everything in a supermarket. That it's like the illusion life is easy, but it isn't. No matter what way you look at it. And yeah, that's my thoughts on that.
Yeah, no, definitely like the illusion part. I feel like the veil is being lifted right now with the world that we're in. And it's either your choice to see or ignore. And it depends too, just like you said, like, if you're spiritually evolved, I don't even know if that's a correct term. Like if you've awakened to what's going on, then you may notice how the veil is being taken away and that everything that you thought is this giant illusion in life.
Do you think that when you say like kind of like a mass awakening, yeah, do you mean spiritually awakening, enlightenment, power of the mind, quantum physics, all that type of awakening? Or do you mean like awakening to there's more to life than what you thought there was, say, last week? Like, what type of awakening do you mean? Or is it a mixture of both, if that makes sense?
I think it's definitely a mixture of both, but with me, I feel so many different energies, and I've always felt so much even at such a young age. I've always had such a heightened awareness, and I feel more people are stepping into that power of being just aware and, like you said, realizing there's more to life. There's more to life on an energy field, just like you said, going in nature and being one with nature and relaxing and calming down and actually being with yourself, I think is highly important. Learning to love yourself and love who you're becoming.
I find there's a massive power in not watching Netflix or listening to the radio when there's nothing to
Yes.
do. It's almost like when there's nothing to do, we find something to do. Whether it's playing
Yes.
Xbox, whether it's cleaning again, emptying the bins, like shit that really doesn't need to be done. It's like your brain is seeking stimulation. It's like it doesn't need to be stimulated. And I only recently have literally taken the radio out my bedroom because every morning it became a pattern, almost like having a cigarette in the morning. It's like no reason for it. It's just your brain's used to doing it. And it was like, I remember when I was 21 and I was enlightened, how I took my TV out my room, my computer, and the radio. I just had me on the bed, just imagination. And it was so peaceful. My energy raised itself. I slipped into meditation and deep thought. I gave myself time to, as you said, spend time with myself and find what really makes me happy. And so now, just when I'm thinking, okay, what can I do? I just do nothing. And it's amazing how quickly time passes when you do nothing. Like, it's amazing when you just let yourself go off into not consciously thinking, but just nothing. And then your thoughts come, think about them, and then meditate. Just doing nothing and spending time with yourself. It's powerful, and yet everyone fills time with something. And it's sad because it's like you have the opportunity to spend time with, say, God or a Father Christmas or a young baby that makes you feel amazing. And yet you're wasting it on somebody else's career, for example, like their job in the radio, their job on Netflix. That's their job. They're living out their dream, and you're watching their dream. And it's like you need to be living your dream. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I totally know what you mean. I feel like as being a human being, like you're kind of on autopilot so much in life. And, like how we're brought up in the school system and everything, and we're just so conditioned to be go, 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 and not step back and just be yourself, and feel what actually you have, what you're feeling in the inside, and without distractions, without the TV, without the radio, without looking at your phone every 3 minutes to see who's texted you. Just be with yourself and actually feel what it is to be yourself, and it's quite amazing when you do.
Yeah, like having to do something is a drug. It's the same as drinking, smoking, watching porn, playing Xbox. It's like you give your brain something and a feeling and a reward, it wants it again.
Get the
And yet
dopamine
you
hit.
see so many young people, literally their parents feeding them an iPad to shut them up.
Yeah.
Yeah, the 13-year-old boy wants Xbox because all his mates play FIFA on live. So he's in his bedroom playing Xbox. He's getting angry about the fact that he's missed the ball on the imaginary computer screen. It's creating real anger over just a few pixels that he can see. So now, like, young people are living in this state of anger and frustration, and they have really no idea why. And if they don't get the Xbox out of all their friends, they're seen as the poor person who can't afford it, or they're seen as not cool. And you suddenly don't start to fit in socially, which creates so many issues. It creates it like people have no idea what's to come through all this screen time, and like it literally it's not human, and people are going to be in for a shock. Like
Yeah.
everyone's going to be autistic because that just means that you can't speak to people, you get frustrated in your own brain, you can't express yourself, you can't look at people in the eye, you can't speak to people, you can't say how you feel. That is everyone. And I
Yeah.
literally mean everyone.
Yeah, it's like everyone's just so overstimulated, and like you bringing up how you just hand your iPad or your cell phone to your child, and because you want them to be distracted because you don't want to deal with whatever is going on right now. And I'm not saying you're a bad parent for doing that, but I feel everyone is just so overstimulated with everything, and the imagination that was once there, like that I had growing up, and I'm sure that you had too, because we didn't have so much stuff just thrown at us. The imagination is just slowly fading away, and definitely the communication, and people have such a hard time just articulating how they feel to one another, and even how they feel about themselves.
It's like if you notice, if you look at young actors and singers, right? Often when they were younger, they were singing and performing in front of the camcorder, and the parents were clapping and encouraging them, and which was a reaction. And they sing and they act even more, and then grandma comes over and the cousins come over and they all watch and they see, wow, you're so good, lovely voice. They get used to that reward, and then they perform, they get the reward, they gain more confidence, and it just builds and builds and builds until, for example, you're an actual actor or a singer. These days, nobody gets enough reward stimulation from parents because they also are stuck in the past generation of not getting enough reward from the parents, to the point where nobody has the ability to give attention to the child because you're also lacking attention yourself. So it's
Yeah.
like I can't give you love because I never had love myself. Like you can't give love unless you know how to receive it, type of thing. And it's like, whose responsibility is it to govern that? Is it government? Is it parents? Well, government are following private institutions, and private institutions are just supplying and demand. Parents are buying into all the government and institutions. Kids are following the parents who are following government institutions. Is there a God? Is there not a God? Is he going to help you or not? Who's responsible for like this humanitarian disaster? You know what I mean? Who is it, or does it just come down to individually one person when that time comes where you just get so angry and pissed off with the Wi-Fi signal, you throw your phone against the wall, and all of a sudden, shit, my phone's broken. Now I can't get a phone for a month, and then that month of not having a phone allows you to, well, I can't do anything now, so I just have to sort of just go and look at the garden, and then through doing that you realize how much peace you gained from looking at the butterfly, to the point where you don't save up £1,000 for an iPhone a month later. Do you think like that is what will happen? Like, it's almost like the Big Bang. It has to blow before it grows again, and you can't speed up the bang. It only will explode when it does. I believe that.
Oh, I totally do too. And I feel, this point in time right now with everything going on, that's just the way everything is heading. And the lack of awareness that people have about themselves and about the universe and just everything is just going to come tumbling down.
I remember when I was younger, I used to be on my laptop. Like, we're talking like 10 years ago, when laptops were slow and internet was shit. I used to get so frustrated when, say, the website used to crash or whatever, and I used to get mad. I used to punch my keyboard, right? Used to punch it, and then it used to break, and I used to blame the Wi-Fi and blame my dad. Then I realized the Wi-Fi used to fuck up, not because of the Wi-Fi, but because of my own energy and my own anger causing an interference. So I used to call up the network provider, like, this Wi-Fi keeps cutting out. They sent people around and they changed the right Wi-Fi and the router and all the leads. They couldn't find a problem, and I realized that the problem was me, because obviously we're energy. My
Yeah.
energy was causing such an interference with the Wi-Fi that it used to fuck up the internet, and I used to smash the keyboard, and then the keyboard used to break. And so I used to get so angry, it was like, keyboard's broken. I can't do anything. So I just used to sit on my bed and sulk. And I used to feel like these pins and needles, like this tingling rage of, no one fucking understands me. This rage, this boil, right? Where I just used to surrender to myself because I couldn't do anything. And then through that anger and energy used to raise my vibration, and my TV used to click. The light bulbs used to flicker. And it was causing an interference with stuff in the room. So my energy raised, but in the wrong direction. It was like anger energy rather than meditation energy. And the point I'm going with this is that that anger used to make me so angry that I just used to cry in my bed, and then I wouldn't be on the computer for, say, an hour. So when people buy into all of this stimulation of the brain, they get an Xbox and they get a laptop, and then somebody shoots them on Call of Duty, he's going to get so angry, like you see online, and he's going to throw the Xbox on the floor, and he's not going to have an Xbox. And then change will happen because you haven't got an Xbox anymore.
Yeah, just saying how we're like such energetic beings, and if you focus on the negative or the positive, whatever you focus on, it gets heightened so much. It's so funny you bringing that up, because I used to be the same way when I was younger. I'd get this so frustrated, and I would have the same, like the lights flickering, electronics would break as soon as I put them on, and I'd be like, what the fuck, like, like, send this back, it doesn't work. But it was me doing it. And you don't realize at the time when you're younger, but then you take a step back and you realize, like, wow, it's not just a coincidence, it's actually me, it's my energies fucking with everything.
Yeah, literally. It's like, if you take energetic terms, right? For example, when I was growing up, I was said, I'm the problem. I literally was the problem. But
Yeah.
they didn't mean it that way. They meant like, you're just the problem. Things always fuck up, right? But it was a surge of energy. So energetic terms: surge, interference, intermittence, um, interfering, right? These are all energetic terms. I was always told growing up that I'm always interfering, energy term. Intermittent, I was always making things like cut out. Surge of energy, so when I had loads of sugary drinks or whatever, I'd have a surge of energy. And all of a sudden I realized all the things that I was always told growing up, intermittent, interfering, they're all energy terms. And I go back and I realized people always said to me, you've got so much energy, like, can't you just sit down and read a book like the normal kids? And I was just running around, and it was like I was a problem. And so, as I said, take all these energetic words causing a problem. Wi-Fi doesn't work, take it back, send the people over, and they can't find a problem, and yet the problem's still there when they go, and they can't find it. And then you realize the problem was me, but when my parents say you're such a problem, you don't mean it in that way. Like, I'm a problem because I'm creating problems, but it's 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 different. It's energy. And every time I used to turn lights on, it would blow, and I just fucking replaced the bulb, right? Um, yeah, just crazy, crazy, crazy stuff to do with energy. Like I had plastic drawers and they used to click when like it was like a static charge. It's like plastic isn't supposed to click. My windows would used to click. It was made from plastic. It's almost like when you open your window and your TV's been on, you get the cold air coming through and it starts to click. The only difference was that my TV would click when I'm laying in my bedroom saying, universe, give me a sign if I should do something, and then my energy would penetrate out. It would create a surge in the TV, and it would click. And to me, that was a ghost, my grandma's spirit, kind of like looking over me. It was a grandma. Should I do this and do that? Should I deliver leaflets today? And I'd wait for the click. And whilst I'm waiting, my energy was meditating. I was kind of statically bringing all the energy to my center by that pause, waiting for the click, and my energy was building up, and it would reach the TV or the light, and it will flicker, and it will click, and that was my answer. And I realized, wow, I do not need to keep asking to do something. I just need to do it. And that's where the procrastination comes in, where people they want a reason to do something. And it's like, I don't have to ask my grandma every time, should I do this, should I do that? Because it's me just confirming to my own self, I just have to do it. But it's interesting because I've only met, say, I've spoken to, say, two people, or maybe even one, who said that they used to cause interference. No, actually, three, four people when they used to go to the supermarkets, the checkouts, the systems. It used to fuck up. So they touch the screen and it would fuck up. I remember going into the casino on the touch screens, like the roulette thing, and no joke, I used to go in, put a pound on zero, and it would come in immediately. And people were like, "How did you do that?" And I used to believe I had the ability to kind of, with my finger, create a charge or something somehow, and make the number come in. But yeah, not many people say that they have control over devices, but it always seems to be a child who is frustrated. It's almost like when you're frustrated, that certain rage and anger is a certain frequency that sets off things. And I was a raging child in my head, because I saw the world like this. No one else did, and I couldn't explain or understand. Like, don't you see it? You fucking stupid. And then they're like, "Oh, what's wrong? What's going on in your head?" I'm like, "You don't understand." You know what I mean? I'm sure you did know what I mean.
Oh yeah, no, totally. It's so funny you said going to the stores, or, I'd walk under street lights, and the ones I walk under had shut off, and then as soon as I walked away from it, they turned back on.
Yeah, same.
And I've always have had that, and I used to have just so much like energy built up inside of me because like I just like you, like you don't understand like what's going on in my mind, like especially as a young child. And if, of course, like if you view the world slightly differently compared to your friends, it's hard.
Yeah, like that constant brain stimulation of thinking and questions when most people are just like reading a book, listening to the teacher, playing Xbox, fucking reading a book, whatever. Whereas I would just be thinking and thinking and thinking and thinking and thinking and questioning everything. Why did that happen? How did this happen? Blah, 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 blah. Which is like a constant charge of like energy. And most people are just not thinking. I was thinking, creating energy. And it's funny because like the lamppost situation, I used to try and reenact that situation. So I'd go back under the lamppost whilst being aware, quantum physics, it knew I was observing it. The light never went off. But when I go back in time and I went under the lamppost or I went past the traffic light or whatever, it would happen. And I realized you can't reenact something that's already happened. Okay. And and yeah, the lamppost is also a thing that used to happen. It was like you go under and it will go off. And it was like it was amazing. Like I remember once, right, I was at my friend's house and their dog was just looking up above my head, barking. It was just staring at me, barking. And at that point, I was speaking to my grandma, who wasn't here. I believe she was at that time. I was lost and searching, and she came from whatever. But to me, it was grandma's my guardian angel. She's
Yeah.
around me. Dogs can see things. My friends couldn't. I was looking at the dog like, yeah, I know it's only grandma. And all the parents on the couch are like, "Why are you barking?" And the dog's just looking at me like, "Ruff, ruff," right? And Yeah, just stuff like that. It was like dogs would bark, babies would stare at me, and there's just no reason why.
I had the same, and I still have the same thing happen to me all the time. And I feel like I have like an army behind me sometimes of, and not just myself, but energetic
Spirits.
beings. Yeah, of course. And it's so funny you even said the children, like babies would always be, they'd be gazing at me and they always gravitate towards me. And my mom would always be like, oh, children love you, animals love you, but they would be looking at my aura or my energetic field, and they would see what's going on.
Yeah, they literally would just stare. It's almost
Yeah.
like not that looking in your eyes. They
No.
can. It's almost like they can see. Like for example, obviously when they're a baby, their eyes aren't used to light, right? Because they're
Mhm.
just coming out into this world. So we do not know what a baby sees in terms of different light frequencies. So for all we know, when a baby looks at light, he sees it really vivid. We don't know, right? Because we can't really prove it, right? So a baby looks at energy. If it's there, it can see, and then an adult can't, right? It's almost like you lose your ability to sense stuff when you go out into an office because everyone else's energy just fucks up your own, basically. But yeah, babies would just stare, not necessarily my eyes, just glare. It's almost like they can see something which we couldn't. And babies, parents used to be like, oh, she loves you. And animals just gravitate towards me, like just I can almost go up to any squirrel, any bird, any cow, and they just come up to me. Um, yeah, you do feel like not so much anymore because I am different part of my life now. I'm like indoors podcasting and shit like that. But when I used to be out, people, it was like you do feel like you have this amazing gift. Like as you said, you feel like I've got my grandma behind me, my great aunt, fucking everyone behind you, but yet no one can see it. And you walk around with this enormous like I am protected, and like nothing's bad's gonna happen. And I always wonder, is it like the confidence and the like presence one carries? Like most people don't make eye contact. So if we're looking at babies, we're making eye contact. Most people don't look at people, so therefore they're not looking at the baby, and the baby's only looking at you because you're looking at him. Or is it the fact that he can see something that we can't see, or is it both?
Yeah, I definitely feel it would be both, I'd think. Well, that's what I feel, basically, in the eye contact thing. I find a lot of people can't actually look at, say, you or I because they really can't look at themselves. And that's just a huge reflection of how they feel about themselves if someone can't make eye contact with you.
Do you find that? So you probably have good eye contact, right? Where you can just lock an eye contact because it's just
Too
that's what you
intense at
do,
times.
huh?
I've been told I'm too intense at times, but
Yeah. So I became aware of this, and then I went through the phase of I'm not going to change because you can't under my eye contact. I'm just going to look at you because why not? That's me. But then it was almost like I don't feel comfortable making you feel uncomfortable because then you start to create this nervous energy, which then affects me. So it's almost like as a wise person, I have to know that this situation can go both ways. What's best for me? It's almost like when you're queuing up at a supermarket. I would just look at that person. I'd admire their eye color, their eye contact. I'd judge them as a person, not negatively. And but they'd feel me glaring at them, and then they'd fuck up on the change. Like they'd give me the wrong change because I'm like taking away their ability to process information. Because when you observe somebody, you take away their energy. Like when you look at a TV or whatever, it clicks. Like you take away the charge. And it was like every time I glare at somebody, they give me the wrong change, or they gave me £20 back instead of 10. So it's like it's a blessing and a curse because it's like, do I say that she gave me the wrong change, or do I shut my mouth and like keep it? But yeah, I realized if you, me for example, they say your eye contact's too intense. If you look at people too long, don't know if you notice this, but they start to twitch. Their face starts to twitch. They start to squint as if they're trying to like block your eye contact. Like there's too much energy coming to my eye. I can't handle it. Stop looking at me. And they close their eye and they look away and they look at your hair. They look at your teeth, your nose, or whatever because they can't handle it.
the shifty eye thing, yeah. Yeah, no, I've been that way. I always people that I see just walking around, I smile at them and it's like, they're like, oh, like, what is that girl smiling at? And it's, oh, I'm just, I'm smiling at you, at you. Um, I'm projecting that energy towards you. And sometimes it really makes people feel super uncomfortable. And then on the other hand, some people will just, they'll love it because so many people are just so closed off and cold, especially now in our world. So it's nice to see like an emotional connection and making eye contact, recognizing the person and seeing them for who they are, not just physically, but at a soul level.
Do you find that when you say walk past an older person, like a granny or a granddad, right, that when you smile at them, they're not used to, say, a young person like us even giving a shit about them, but the fact that you sort of just look at them as they walk past, smile, they start to smile, then you say hello, then they say hello. Don't you find that that is like the most amazing feeling ever, especially with an older person who to the rest of the world is just like, you've had your days, love. But then it's like, no, I still see you, just like I see that 10-year-old kid.
Yeah, no, I love that. And it just makes me so happy being that way with people because it just lights up their day. And like you said, people like with our generation too, they're so, used to us looking on our phone or not paying attention. And you actually look up and you realize who's in front of you.
That's the thing, right? That person was once somebody our age. We
Yeah.
forget that. Like, we just see it as an old person. We'd have no things in common. But that person, right, was just like us. They had young skin. They were good looking, whatever. And so it's like, why would you walk past somebody and then look at somebody else? And actually, these older people will give you more time and attention and knowledge and a quality conversation than most people our age because they came from a generation where there was no phones and stuff, and all they had was conversation. So if you want a conversation, go sit next to a granny at the bus stop. Guarantee she will make your day.
One of my last places I worked at when I did aesthetics, it was most of my clientele was elderly, and I actually I looked forward to going in because they would tell me stories about their lives, and they'd actually ask me questions about myself, and I loved it so much because they spoke to you at such a deeper level and actually formed a connection with you. I just couldn't wait to talk to them. I'm like, oh, I can't wait to talk to my 85-year-old client. Like, I have a better conversation than I do with someone my age.
Yeah, growing up, I was always somebody who was befriending my dad's friends or my mum's friends. Like, I never had friends growing up. I mean, I had people I knew, went out with, but that's just because that was part of the pattern. Like, just go out with them. I didn't like them. They didn't like me. It was like I felt like I should be going out with you because why not? I deserve to, like, But really, they had nothing in common. My parents' friends used to come over, and I used to speak to them. And so they were like my friends because that was a stimulating conversation I needed when I was, say, 15, when most 15-year-olds are playing Xbox or playing football. And I found that I connect to older people far better than I connect to people my age. And this is the thing, right? People speak about themselves. Nobody wants to listen because it's just like, I don't want to hear you speak about you. Whereas it's like, if we took it in turn to speak about ourselves, that's a fair thing. So when you speak to these older people and they say, so tell me about your day or whatever, you get a chance to speak about you. And because they're not going anywhere anytime soon, you can say, tell me about your day. And so it's this give and take of I'm learning and listening, but I'm also speaking about me. And I think that people don't speak about themselves enough. Ironically, people would say people speak about themselves too much, but it's circumstantial. It's saying, "Oh, I'm so great, I'm so this, I'm so that." No, just speak your thoughts. Like, get those thoughts out your head because that's what Tourette's is, which I had growing up. It's just my dialogue didn't go anywhere because no one heard me. I never got the response to see, is this right or wrong? So I just had to question and answer my own self. So I needed the release. So the reason why I started these podcasts is because it gives two people the ability to not only speak their thoughts, but you can listen and learn through the other person, which is what no one does these days, which is what a conversation should be. Give and take. Kids ain't got time to ask questions because their phone pings. and no one can listen because they just want to speak.
Yeah, I think it's beautiful when two people can have an energy exchange and actually get to know someone at a deeper level. You know, that saying where you're like an onion. People are like onions and they have so many layers. And usually it's like, oh, how are you? And oh, I'm good. And, and I feel I just like deep conversations and actually getting to know someone. And I don't want to talk about the weather. Like, I don't want to talk about what your favorite TV show is. Like, I want to actually get to know you, like who you are, the you that you don't want the world to really see.
Yeah, I'm somebody who I walk past a bin man in the street. I say, "How you doing?" I'll give him a high five. Now I know that probably no one's ever done that in his life, and nobody probably will ever do it again. But for that moment in time, he felt like a king. And so he's going to go back, he's going to tell his friend or whatever that was doing the bins, and this random guy just came up to me and gave me a high five. Like, you changed someone's life. Like, that is such a boost of energy that we won't really see, because unless you leave with him, you won't really know how he responds. But just know from experience that somebody feeling seen and heard when they feel invisible really does change your mindset. Like, for example, let's just say you hate your job and you don't feel like you're valued, and then a customer really says, "Thank you for your time. You really made me feel great. Like, waited on me in a restaurant. You made me feel good." He gets that feedback. It's not a coincidence how a few weeks later they resign. Why? Because they suddenly feel, yeah, you know what? I'm worth more than this shitty little job. This customer really appreciated me. I am worth more. This boss doesn't even say hello to me. And so they change jobs. What does that say? It says the power of observation, the power of seeing somebody, power of just saying hello, noticing somebody. You see people like, on the street just picking up the litter. They feel worthless and people see them as worthless. But they are a human being. They've got a family. They've got a story. Like, they've got two kids and they're a great father. So all of a sudden you connect on a father level. Because let's just say you're a father. Rather than he's just the bin man. And then you see he's got a mother and a father. And you see, fucking hell, he's just like me. And now you connect to a human being equally. And that's what's missing. That I'm not being heard, so I'm not going to give you time. Give me time, then I'll give you time. And it's like, no, somebody's got to start the ball rolling. And only the aware and the woke can really start the ball rolling.
Yeah, and I feel like egos aside, a lot of people they really get that mean guy or mean girl voice in their head, and it's just going off like even if you do want to talk to someone, that voice would, oh no, like they wouldn't want to talk to you. Why would they want to talk to you? And like just putting that part of you, your ego or whatever you want to call it, aside and just saying how you feel to someone, like you said, it can literally change someone's day. Like, and I always try to be that way because you never know what's going on in someone else's life.
What I have found, right, through experience and also experimenting once I had the knowledge is, for example, as you said, we're too scared to go up to somebody because we're scared of rejection. And
Yes.
like a bee in a bonnet, it won't release itself until you open the lid. So it's almost like you like someone from school, 5 years passes, you see them in the street, you trigger off all those feelings, you go up to them, and you're like, oh my God, I like you, whatever. And it's like you are a different person, and so are they, compared to when you knew them. And it's almost like we're told, especially men, chase. Don't be told no. Keep being persistent, right? So then you'd not accept the word no and you would keep going. And it's like, if something's meant to happen, it will. It should be easy. But yet you're forcing something, and by trying to force something, it creates more problems. Whereas, let's just say 7 years ago at school, you knew the knowledge of just say how you feel. If they feel the same, fantastic. That bee was let out that bonnet 7 years ago, and you didn't keep it in your head 7 years for the rest of your life, right? But if they say, "Oh, that's really sweet, but I'm not interested," you'd get the instant answer and you'd move on. It's almost like you can evolve in one day rather than 7 years by just doing it. And what's amazing is, let's just say a not so good looking person to one would always appreciate somebody, let's just say, who is classed as good looking, coming up to them. you'd say a good-looking person won't be interested in me because I don't see myself as good-looking. And you say, right, take away the looks. They're a person just like you who's insecure, who's not confident, who's got all these issues, just like you, apart from you say they've got a pretty face, which is only subjective to you thinking that is pretty based on what you're used to seeing. There's no such thing as pretty or ugly. If you are used to seeing people with, say, dark hair, they'll be attractive. If you grew up with a place with loads of black people, you'll find black people attractive. If you grow up with people with women with shaved hair, you'll find that attractive. It's what you're used to. So there's no such thing as that's good looking or not. Okay? So then you realize, okay, take away the physical side. They're just a vibration who feels exactly the same. So now you can go up to any person you want, say how you feel. They'll either say yes or they won't, and they're feeling the same way. Yet we spend all our life procrastinating, living in regret, wishing I did. It's like you just have to do it right now. And literally, you like your whole life, like 70 years of regret becomes 10 years of action, and then you've got 60 years of your life just to be free. And I know this because I was that person. And I realized that no matter how good looking somebody is, male or female, we're all insecure, we're all the same, we're all scared of rejection. And just speak to them. Like don't try and be like chat up lines. Don't try and be cocky or be a fucking idiot because their girls will like piss off. Just be a human being. Like just say hello. How's your day? If, for example, she's like weirdo, go away. Don't take it as an insult on you. Just take it as if she's not very confident and that is okay. Rather than you're such a bitch or whatever. It's just okay, fine. And then learn from that. Just you can only really learn. Like maybe going up to a random person on their lunch break isn't the way. So what is likely the way? What's more appropriate when you're in a pub, in a restaurant, in a club? Is that more appropriate? Okay, so I'll approach you then, and I use the same thing. Hello, I'm Oliver, or whatever. And so really, we're scared to feel things. That's what it comes down to, whether it's negative or positive. We're scared to feel because then we have to embrace, and then it's like accepts everything that we've run from.
Yeah, and I feel like definitely right now it's with all the feelings and the emotions and everything coming to head, that's exactly like you hit the tip of the iceberg with that. Like people are afraid to feel. And also, I feel people are afraid to be present. Like you said, you live with regret, you're thinking of the past, you're thinking of the future, oh, that person's not going to like me, or so and so didn't like me back in high school, so why should I even talk to them? If you just take a step back and be in the now, so much can change in life. But it does take a lot of willpower and reprogramming of the brain to be present, be in the now.
Do you think it's a learnt trait, not to feel things? Like, for example, go back to our grandparents' age. Did they feel things? Then go back even further to, say, cavemen. Did they feel things? Is it like man-made not to feel things or to feel things? Or is it part of evolution to sort of like just not really get attached to anything because, I don't know, the fear of danger?
Fight or
Like
flight.
obviously we've learned us two, and I now feel things, and I make sure if I don't, I do. So if I think, oh, she won't be interested, I'll purposely go up to that person, like to counteract all fear. So I know it's possible to feel things, but you look on the bigger scale, no one feels things. Is it like a cultural thing? Is it learnt? Is it you can kind of counteract anything, but it's not natural?
Well, they always talk about that reptilian part of your brain, and how that's there to protect us. But I also feel we are conditioned to not open up and not feel our emotions because it makes us appear that we're weaker and not as strong. But I do believe that anyone can tap into that part of themselves. And as for someone like myself, who's a highly sensitive person, I've always felt things at such an extreme level. And sometimes it's overwhelming because, I feel things so much. I can feel if there's something wrong with my friend and she can be miles away. for me. Like I have that connection. I can feel it in nature. I feel it with our planet, but I feel anyone can tap into that. But we have been conditioned to turn the switch off, if you know what I mean.
At school, right? Were you somebody who, would you say dyslexic?
I've always thought I had dyslexia,
So for
which is
me,
funny.
right? For me, all those names, Tourette's, autism, dyslexia, ADD, ADHD, they're names to define a state of mind, right?
Yes.
So the more energy someone has, the more internal they are. Tourette's, that's what I had. The next
Hmm.
level is autism. The next, because they can actually kind of speak but not speak, whereas you could say a Tourette's person is just in their head, whatever, right? And then you go down a bit, you've got ADD, which is the attention deficit, but you can kind of fit in. Then you've got ADHD, where you're just kind of too outspoken and you've got that kind of internal dialogue. Then there is dyslexia, where you spend too much time on the outside trying to learn things and listen, but you can't. So these are just like levels of state of mind from like low to high. So dyslexia is more common than Tourette's, right?
Hmm.
But not many people are dyslexic in terms of the general majority of people. So at school, there's always like the people who don't really understand, and like the more you don't understand, the more you go into your head. Tourette's, autism, right? These are just names given by, let's say, doctor's institution to define why that person is like that, so the other kids understand why that person's in the corner with a fucking blue screen over his book because he can't read the letters when everyone else can just read properly, right? And there's like medication to try and counteract that kid so that kid becomes normal. And the kid never becomes normal because it's an energy thing. It's not a physical thing. It's an energy thing.
Mm.
You can't just put medication on it because the energy is still there. The energy will actually increase more because you're fighting that brain stimulation which the medication is suppressing. Hence my Tourette's thing, because the medication slowed my brain down and all these thoughts just stayed in my head far longer than they needed to. And so now it's like this supercharged of energy. And I find that all these awakening people, they probably did have, for example, dyslexia. And all that means is that your brain doesn't just learn through like words, it learns through other senses, listening, touch, vision, not just reading, because we're not just like one sense of reading, we're multiple. And because they are more sensitive to everything in life, they find it hard just to use one sense to read and gain information. Whereas the robotic people who are just low energy, they can just read. Their eyes are programmed by their parents just to read. So their brains just, they read and they bring it all in. Whereas me, I read like 5 words and my brain's thinking about someone else and I never finish the sentence to the point where I can't even read the damn book. I've never read a book in my life because my imagination will just come into place where I never finish the sentence. Whereas I'm listening to, say, somebody speaking, I can then vision whilst listening, and I remember the whole thing. An hour of listening, but yet I can't read a book for 5 minutes. And that is amazing because that's why a lot of these people at school like us, we struggle to fit in because everything is based on like one sense reading, listen to the teacher, otherwise you're dumb. And it's
Yep.
like, well, I'm fucked for 5 years.
Yeah, and it's funny you brought that up because I was labeled with so many things in school and my whole life and even in my younger 20s and so many things, borderline, you're this, you're that, or you have ADHD or learning disorders, you're this, you're that. And it's like it puts you in this box and you're like, well, like what the fuck is wrong with me? Why can't I be like that person? But really, when you take the labels away, like you're a human being and the whole label thing, like I don't like to be defined as a label anymore because, that's not who I am. That's not who I am as a human being. That's not who I am on an energy level. Yeah, I learn differently. I take in things differently. I'm more artistic and visual, and I just didn't fit in that cookie cutter school system that some of my friends did, and they excelled, and I didn't.
Yeah, it's like I would have every label under the sun. OCD meaning I'm going to do 100 podcasts and I've done it. OCD, someone's like, I'll come out tonight. No, I'm doing a podcast. OCD. ADD, attention. I can't focus on one thing. ADHD, moving physically, can't sit still, Tourette's, twitching based on brain activity, swearing because I'm frustrated about trying to work something out, right? Dyslexia, I can't spell words because I learn by listening. So all these labels, personality disorder, 1 minute you're this, then you're that.
Yeah.
Depression, where I'm low in energy and then I'm suddenly happy, right? Bipolar, you're this and then you're that. And then it's like all these names literally define my unique energy, right? And it's like you take all of these labels away. A banana is a banana, a dog is a dog, I'm just Oliver. That's the end of it. It's like that is a plant. You are Jocelyn, right? But people who don't understand why this is different, they need a label. And it's not that it's created necessarily for people to understand. It's just over time, this is what it is. People get used to that. And then that becomes your label. It's fascinating, for example. Like if I saw somebody from school 8 years ago, it'll be, oh, that's Oliver. He's got Tourette's. It's like, hang on a sec. Got Tourette's? Had Tourette's? I had cancer when I was 5. I have cancer. Like, no, it was then. It doesn't exist now. But it's like, it just seemed people are used to things just like being, that's a plant and that's just a plant, right? And it's like, no, 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 no. Like, it fascinates me because it was almost like, that's Oliver. He has Tourette's. It's like, if I met you now, like, I'm 80 years old. That's Oliver. He has Tourette's. It's like, what do you mean has? You know what I mean? Had. But not even had. Like, it doesn't exist. It's a fucking little name.
Yeah.
It fascinates me to see it from both sides.
No, it fascinates me too, because my whole life I've been labeled as things, and like you said, like I used to define myself as it. And just slowly after the last few years, I've learned like, well, that's not actually who I am, right? Like this isn't me. I'm a being of energy, and that's the way that I am. I don't need a label of personality disorder or ADHD or you're depressed or you're that. No, I'm Jocelyn. That's who I am.
Although, for example, like, mental health and awareness and stuff like that, it's good that people are kind of finding it cool to speak their feelings. Like that's a good thing, whether it's whatever
Yes.
the reason, speak your feelings. But there is a danger with kind of seeing it as a trend. It's almost like you're not really understanding like the real purpose. You can't be like just, I've got mental health issues, I've got anxiety, I'm going to take tablets. Because what happens is that you stay in that mindset because those tablets trick yourself into believing that there's no problem. As I said, that vibration is still there. Your circumstances, why you've got anxiety, is still there. You need to feel the pain so you deal with it. You can't just take a tablet, trick yourself into believing that your anxiety is gone because you're still in those same situations. So whilst it is good speaking out, you have to understand like what is the real reason for why I'm speaking out? Like, you have to deal with your shit. It's almost like people who say get cancer, they get chemo, the cancer's gone, but you're still eating the same poor diet. You're still not getting sleep. You're still getting angry. You're still sitting by too much electricity, and then you get cancer again. So it's like you have to understand, like, there's a deeper thing behind everything. I do think it's dangerous, like making it like a like cool thing. That is dangerous because it's like I see so many people like my age who've been on antidepressants for whatever anxiety for like 3, 4, 5 years. I'm like, holy shit, 5 years. That's scary because I know the longer you're on it, the longer you don't deal with your problems, the worse they are. I mean, again, it's like how do you solve every problem? But that's just my thoughts on that. It's scary because it's like it's almost like businesses finding another opportunity to profit.
Yeah, and I was heavily medicated for depression and personality disorder and anxiety and this and that. And until you actually get to the root cause of why you have these feelings and why you're feeling this way, it really doesn't go away. Like you said, it's just like putting a band-aid over it. And I mean, medication is there for a reason, but if you're not actually going to do the inner work, and a lot of the time, it all stems down from your childhood, what happened to you as a child, and you carry it on into your adult life. And you need to actually make changes to change. as a human being, or you're just going to be stagnant.
Okay, let's stop this here. I want to save the next conversation for another podcast. So plug anything you want to plug, website, social medias, right now.
Awesome. So my Instagram is I am Jocelyn _
That it?
Sorry. Yeah, that's all I have actually right now. This is my Instagram. I am Jocelyn _
Okay, I'm going to press stop. Wait there. I'll just say goodbye.
Awesome. You take